Hey everybody, welcome to another adventure in the life of Ye Old Naked Man. When you were growing up as a kid, did you ever get involved in building a dune buggy just for the heck of it? Well, I just want to tell you a little bit about my experience with this. I was a whole lot younger and always trying to build something. So one day I went out and I bought this old Ford Squire. It was in really rough shape. The body was rusted out, and it wasn't never going to go back on the road again, but it ran great. The engine transmission was perfect. So, anyway, I decided I'm going to make a dune buggy with this thing. So, I went and got some steel tubing and made a frame, and then I mounted the engine in it and the transmission. And I thought, it'd be really neat if I got another 4-speed transmission mounted in behind the transmission was already there. Well, that's what I did. So I ended up, I had 7 speeds ahead and 4 in reverse. That was pretty neat, I thought. Well, then I took the rear axle out of the Ford Squire. Like I said, it was in pretty rough shape. The axle was really rusted out. The brakes were worn out, and the wheel cylinders leaked. So we thought, what the heck, we don't need brakes. So we took the back brakes and threw them away. So the front brakes weren't good, so that's all we needed to worry about. So then I thought, well, it'd be really neat if we could put dual wheels on this thing. So that's what we did. We put dual wheels on it, and this thing could go anywhere. So anyway, got this thing all built. Going to take it out for a test drive. So away we go. We're just bombing across the field. At least I should say I was bombing across the field this time. And the field was pretty rough. And when we built this, we never put a floor in it. We just had a couple pegs there to put your feet on. Well, that wasn't a really great idea either. I had a pretty big bump in the field, and my feet bounced off of the foot pegs. Well, one of my foot caught the ground and it got folded back underneath the seat of the dune buggy. Just about tore my foot right off. Holy cow, was that ever painful. So, yeah, I took it back to the shop, and I couldn't hardly walk for about 2 weeks. But anyway, we decided, well, I had some expanded metal at the time, and so we put a floor in there. And that was a whole lot better. So we had tons of fun driving this thing all over the country. And I say we because my friend and I, he lived just across the road. He was into that kind of stuff too. So and he was the same age as I was. So we had a lot of fun together. Well, then winter comes along. Well, don't want to park this thing for the winter. So another great idea that I had. Well, maybe not so great. I decided I'm going to put some skis on the front end of this thing. And so took it in the shop, made a pair of skis to fit the front of it, and then found some old tire chains and made them fit the rear wheels. So lots of traction. Well, we get out on the road. We just go bombing down the road, flat out. Well, the end of the road is a T intersection. Yeah, remember I said that there's no back brakes on this thing? So we had no hope in stopping. So went bombing through this T intersection right into the snowbank at the other side of the road. Well, all I can say is a darn good thing there was nobody coming, because we wouldn't have been able to stop. So we go home, get the tractor, come down and drag the whole thing back home. And we still took it out after that. Bombed around the field and stuff where, it didn't matter if we didn't have brakes, but we still had an awful lot of fun with it. Well, another thing was spring come around. Remember the old one-man hovercrafts were a bit of a craze back then? And I'm talking about when I'm probably 16, 17 years old, so that's a few days ago. Well, I started doing some research on the one man hovercrafts and hovercrafts in general. Now, what I discovered, there was a fella, I believe his name was English, and he was the first one to come up with the idea of a hovercraft. And what he did, he had jets coming out underneath the body of this hovercraft, and then on the back end he had these louvers that would go from side to side for steering, and then there was another one went up and down for keeping it level. So it worked not too bad for him. Well, a little while later, another inventor come along and he saw the hovercraft and he wanted to do his own design. So what he did is he got rid of the jets and he decided he'd put a skirt around it, and then he just had fins um, on the back end of it for steering, and then he had a propeller on the top for pushing it forward, and then he had another one um, underneath for the elevation. So anyway, I believe his name was Hoover, and these two guys, they ended up in court fighting about the design of their hovercraft. So the judge looked at him. He says, "Look, you guys have got a great idea here. Why don't you just put your heads together, develop a product, put it in the market, and make some money, instead of spending all your time, money, and energy in court trying to fight who owns what or who controls what." So that's eventually what they did, and that's how we ended up with the hovercraft we know today. So anyway, I went to work one time at this manufacturing facility, and they used to make these boat trailers and tent trailers and stuff like that. Now, the owner of the company, he was always trying different things. He was very creative. So he decides he's going to build himself a hovercraft. So what he did is he went out and he bought, the inflatable swimming pools you had for kids back there. You'd blow them up and the little bubbles on the side. So anyway, he bought one of those and brought it in the shop, mounted a piece of plywood in the bottom, and then he got a lawnmower engine and mounted it on the bottom of this swimming pool, turned it upside down and mounted this lawnmower engine on it, and started it up. And I was talking to him later, and he said that it was quite an experience. He said it was just kind of like if you were on a sheet of plywood on a hardwood floor that was covered with marbles. He said you had absolutely no control of this thing, but he said it sure was lots of fun. So that was his experience with it. So anyway, that's my story and my experience with the hovercraft and the dune buggy. And I'd sure love to hear about your stories and that. So send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. So I hope you've enjoyed my story. I hope you'll join me for my next video. So have an awesome day, and bye for now.